Welcome to the first full episode of the Jennifer Awesome podcast. First of all, thank you. Thank you for being here. Truly. Whether you're listening while driving to work, sitting in traffic, folding laundry, taking a walk, or maybe hiding in your car for a few extra minutes before heading into the house. I'm grateful you're spending this time with me. Starting a podcast is inviting in vulnerability. It feels a bit like opening the front door of my home and inviting people in. I wonder if what I have to say will resonate. I wonder if anyone will listen. I wonder if my story matters enough to share. Maybe that's actually the perfect place to begin because today's conversation is about something I think every single human being wrestles with at some point in their life: the question of whether they matter. I've spent most of my adult life working with people as a teacher, instructional coach, administrator, educational leader, consultant, and now coach. I've had the privilege of working with thousands of students, hundreds of educators, and families from all walks of life. I've sat across from students who were convinced they weren't smart enough. I've worked with teachers who had lost all confidence in themselves. I've talked with parents who felt like they were failing their children. I've worked alongside leaders who appeared successful on the outside but privately questioned whether they were making a difference. And after nearly 20 years of these conversations, I've realized something truly remarkable. The questions are almost always the same. People want to know if they matter. People want to know if they're enough. People want to know if they belong. The details may be different, the circumstances may be different, the age, the background, profession, and life experiences may be different. But underneath it all, those questions show up over and over again. Sometimes, if you have enough courage, they're spoken out loud. Most of the time, they're not. Most of the time, they're hidden behind perfectionism, people pleasing, overachievement, anxiety, avoidance, anger, or self doubt. But they're there. And honestly, I think we're living through a time where more people are asking those questions than ever before. It's strange, isn't it? We live in a world where we are more connected than any generation before us. We carry tiny computers in our pockets that allow us to communicate with people around the world instantly. We can see photos of our friends, follow the lives of celebrities, watch videos from across the globe, and learn almost anything we want with a few taps of the screen. Yet, despite all of the connection, loneliness continues to rise. Anxiety continues to rise. Depression continues to rise. More and more people are reporting that they feel isolated, disconnected, and unseen. And I've been thinking about that a lot. I think part of the problem is that we've confused visibility with belonging. Just because someone can see you doesn't mean that they know you. Just because someone follows you doesn't mean they care about you. And just because someone likes your post doesn't mean they understand your story. Belonging is deeper than visibility. Belonging is deeper than inclusion. Belonging is the feeling that who you are matters. It's the sense that your presence adds value. It's knowing that you don't have to constantly prove your worth to earn a seat at the table. I remember a student I worked with years ago. He spent more time in the office than he did in class. Teachers were frustrated. Other students avoided him, and his parents were exhausted. Everywhere he went, people seemed to expect the worst from him. One day, after another difficult situation, I sat down with him, not to lecture him, not to give consequences, just to talk. And after a long conversation, he said something that has stayed with me ever since. He looked at me and said, "Nobody notices me unless I'm doing something wrong." And that sentence broke my heart. Nobody notices Nobody notices me unless I'm doing something wrong. Think about what that means. Think about how many people walk through life feeling exactly that same way. Maybe not those exact words, but the same feeling. The feeling that they're only noticed when they make a mistake. They're only noticed when they fail. They're only noticed when they disappoint someone. And that student taught me something important. Behavior often tells a story. Underneath the anger, the frustration, the defiance, or disengagement is often a person asking to be seen, a person wondering if they matter, a person searching for belonging. And honestly, adults do the same thing. We've just gotten better at hiding it. Some people become workaholics because they're searching for validation. Some people become perfectionists because they believe if they can just do everything right, they'll finally feel worthy. Some become chronic people pleasers because they're afraid that if they disappoint someone, they'll lose connection. Some withdraw completely because they've been hurt before and they decide it's safer to not risk rejection again. Different behaviors with the same need: belonging. One of the most powerful lessons I've learned in my life, in my own life, is that belonging cannot be earned through achievements. I wish someone would have taught me that earlier. For years, I believed that if I worked harder, accomplished more, got the titles, helped people more, earned more credentials, or reached the next milestone, I would finally feel enough. Maybe you've experienced that too. You achieve one goal and immediately set another. You reach one destination and immediately start looking towards the next. The finish line keeps moving. And eventually you realize that no amount of achievement can fill a need that was never meant to be filled by achievement in the first place. Because belonging isn't something you prove, it's something you experience. That's why community matters so much. Real community, not networking, not collecting followers, not surrounding yourself with people who only celebrate your successes. Real community is being surrounded by people who know your struggles and stay anyways. People who tell you the truth because they care. People who encourage you when you're discouraged. People who remind you of who you are when you've forgotten. And the people real enough to interrupt your inner dialogue and let you know that you matter. I've been fortunate to have people like that in my life: family members, friends, mentors, colleagues, community members who have supported me during difficult seasons. Not because they had all the answers, but because they were willing to walk beside me. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give another person isn't advice, it's presence. Showing up matters. Listening matters. Being available matters. And that's something I've learned repeatedly in education. We spend so much time looking for programs, strategies, initiatives, and interventions that sometimes we overlook the simplest thing of all: relationships. Time and time again, I've seen students transformed not because of a new curriculum, but because of a meaningful connection with an adult who believed in them. I've seen staff members rediscover their passion because a leader took time to listen. I've seen families re-engage because someone reached out and said, "We're glad you're here." Relationships change people. Connection changes people. And belonging changes people. And maybe that's why I feel called to create this podcast. The name Reigniting Belonging came to me because I believe so many people are disconnected right now. Disconnected from one another, disconnected from purpose, disconnected from community, and sometimes disconnected from themselves. I know I was. Life gets busy. We get hurt. We experience setbacks. We become cautious. We build walls. We focus on surviving. And before we know it, we've lost touch with the very things that help us thrive. But here's what gives me hope: people can reconnect, people can heal, people can grow, and people can change. I've seen it happen too many times not to believe it. I've watched students who were told they would never succeed walk across graduation stages. I've watched educators rediscover their purpose after years of burnouts. I've watched families repair relationships that seem broken beyond repair. I've watched people overcome challenges they never imagined they could survive. Human beings are remarkably resilient, and sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we become so focused on our current circumstances that we assume they are permanent. They aren't. Your current chapter is not your entire story. Whatever you're facing today is not the final page. The struggle you're experiencing right now is not the conclusion. The disappointment you're carrying is not the ending. There is still more to be written. There is still growth ahead. There is still healing available. There is still purpose waiting to be discovered. And maybe that's exactly what someone listening needs to hear today. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to have a perfect plan. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to know how the next 5 years are going to unfold. You simply need to take the next step. One conversation, one decision, one act of courage. One day at a time. Become 1% better. When I look back on the most meaningful transformations I've witnessed in schools and organizations and communities and in my own life, it rarely began with some massive breakthrough moment. Most started with a small decision. A decision to keep going. A decision to ask for help. A decision to try again. A decision to believe that something better was possible. Those small decisions eventually become new stories. And before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about someone in your life who might need encouragement right now. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's a former student. Maybe it's your child. Maybe it's someone you haven't spoken to in a long time. Reach out to them. Send the text. Make the phone call. Write the note. Tell them they matter. Tell them you're thinking about them. Tell them you're glad that they are in your life. Because belonging is often built through small moments, small conversations, small reminders that someone is seen, valued, and appreciated. And sometimes those small moments grow into big changes, and they change everything. So I want to thank you again. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for being a part of this journey from the very beginning. I can't wait to continue these conversations together and hopefully share your story on this podcast. Until next time, remember this: you matter. You belong. Your story isn't over. In fact, I have a feeling some of your best chapters are still ahead. Thank you again. I'm Jenny Awesome, and this is Reigniting Belonging.